What difference does it make? You're not looking after yourself. You've got cash. I hate that question.
So, something that we are experiencing in our client calls quite often is that people find it hard to ask for the sale.
That fear of money, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. So
or is it? Where do you think it comes from?
I think sometimes it feels like we're not, but I feel like it comes across like we're putting a gun to somebody's head and going like, do you want to buy this thing?
Oh.
In a really like, I'm going to ask you, but I'm really scared to ask you. I don't want you to feel like you're obliged to do it. There are lots of other people out there that you can buy from instead. I don't know. It's confidence and lack of ownership.
Yeah, there's a few things wrapped up in that, isn't there? There is definitely, I'm definitely going to say money mindset comes into that.
Yeah.
100%.
We are presuming how much somebody's going to value that.
Yeah, you're making a massive assumption on whether or not you think someone's going to be able to afford it or want to invest, or even if they think it's going to be expensive.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, I think you'll know you've got money mindset issues if you're finding yourself using language like expensive, cheap, affordable, all that stuff. Because it comes with different connotations on each one, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But who decides what expensive is?
Yeah. And we've had lots of conversations about this through this podcast, about that value of something. And it can be something relatively cheap. Like we did an episode where you were talking about a bottle of Coke that was £2.50 and it was too much in that particular scenario because you didn't see the value in it. And it's exactly the same for us as, say, dog trainers. Who are we to say that person's pain isn't great enough they're going to pay anything it takes to get that problem sorted or start being sorted? It's not for us to judge that.
Yeah. I was doing an example role play sales call with a client the other week, actually. And we were talking about the perception of, let's say you've got your typical dog trainer. So us back in the day, where maybe we were just doing your 3 sessions, 5 sessions for no more than like 300 quid.
I mean, that's you, because mine were a lot less. I didn't do any sort of package.
Okay. Me specifically then, back in the day, if that's all somebody was able to buy. So the scenario is somebody inquires, let's say on email, and I email them back. And I did do this, and it was reams of shit about how amazing I am and all my shiny badges that I'd got. And then the choice bit came in. They're like, you could buy 1 session, 3 or 5. Why they're odd numbers, I don't know. But that was the thing that we did. It is always odd numbers. Yeah. But that's what you could buy. So I can't even remember what the 1 session was, like 90 quid or something. So that when you prorated it to the 3 or 5, it made sense to buy in bulk. But still presented as sessions. So if you've then got a client coming to you and that's your presentation back, well, their experience of that experience is going to be one way of looking at it. The next opposing side of it is same scenario. They've emailed in, maybe asking how much, maybe just saying, here's a little bit about the situation. This time around though, if there's a phone number, I'm going to immediately call them, which I know for a lot of people is like, oh my God, I have to speak to someone. And again, I did feel like this back then. I didn't enjoy it, but it makes a difference because then that receiving person, that potential customer is going, oh my God, like you've actually picked up the phone to have a conversation with me. Amazing. And if there wasn't a phone number, I'd ask for it and I would position it and I would frame it differently to go, thank you for sending that inquiry through so that I can help you to the best I possibly can. It'd be great to have a conversation so I can understand you more and really leaning in on that understanding. So already, option 1 and option 2, which do you think comes across better?
Option 2.
So now we're in a position of, oh, we want to understand someone. And that client is already feeling much better. Like they feel like they're going to be heard and they've got the chance to actually get some stuff off their chest.
And actually, you're probably the only person that's actually wanted to have a conversation about it and listen to their real struggles and how it makes them feel as well.
Yeah.
But this is kind of the next part of that conversation, really, isn't it? Is discovering those struggles and pains.
Yeah, well, this is it. Because, I mean, arguably, I think for a lot of us, we go, ooh, now imagine in that option 1, if somebody came back and said, yep, I'll have whichever one, the 1, 3 or 5. I'm like, yes, ka-ching, made a sale. But I don't know what I'm walking into, which happened a lot. I have no idea the whole situation because all I did was go, here's about me. You've said you've got a dog problem. I can help with pretty much every dog problem because I didn't have any messaging out. I didn't state what my expertise was in. And I was chasing the cash.
And also, the only information you've got is on an email that it can be interpreted one of two, well, many ways really, but that's all you've got. And it never is how it really is on an email, is it?
No idea at all. Didn't even know if I'd like the person, nothing, because all I was interested in was getting that sale. But then that option 2 bit comes along. I'm like, oh, now I can have a conversation with someone and now I can understand you. And the scenario I think I did in the role play, casting my mind back now with our client, was somebody inquires and let's say it's for loose lead walking. Now, in your mind now, cast your mind back to an air quote normal dog trainer, or how we both used to work, even though yours was puppy. What would be the initial things that would come to mind? Like, could you help with loose lead walking?
Yeah.
And what would you be thinking during that conversation? You may not have had a conversation, but what would have come to mind first?
Loose lead walking.
So all the dog stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
I can do that. I can teach someone how to loose lead walk.
Yep. And how long would you say it would take?
I could do it in a session.
Yep. So you only need like 1 session, loose lead walking, bang, done. Yep. Now, scenario 2, same problem, it's loose lead walking. Now, let's assume you've now asked some questions. So what's the scenario? Oh, dog's being a pain in the backside. They're loose. They're loose. There is no loose lead. It's just non-existent.
Okay.
They're pulling all the time.
Let's do it. Ask me.
Oh, we're doing this.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like I need to do my whole spiel now. Right. Okay. So when you say loose lead walking, tell me a little bit more. What do you mean when you say loose lead walking?
Oh, my arm gets pulled out of the socket. The dog's zigzagging in front of me, tripping me up.
Okay, great. And how long has that been going on for?
What's the dog? 8 months. Probably like 6 months now.
Okay. I missed a bit because I would have normally asked this at the start. What breed is the dog?
Staffy.
Staffy. Okay. So mentally, we're going Staffy. I can expect a bit of pulling there. Zigzagging, 8 months. Okay. Maybe there hasn't been any training. Now, I know a lot of people that would ask on that sales call, what have you tried before?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
I hate that question. Do you know why I hate that question?
Go on.
What difference does it make?
Because
aside
you
from
might then not do these things.
Aside from ultimately making the person feel like shit. Well, what have you tried before? Because it is going to come with a tone. It doesn't matter how, like, even if you're really conscious of that tone, it's like, oh, okay, what? I can't even do it. What have you tried before?
But actually, almost, not only what have you tried before, who have you tried it with?
Oh,
that
God.
person then almost sounds like a failure for not achieving the desired result.
Yeah. But actually, that's your, what's the word I'm looking for? That is your like imposter bit coming through and going, oh, well, who have you tried that with before?
Yeah.
Because maybe I'm not as good as them. Or actually, on the other side of it,
I'm better than them.
I'm better than them. So yeah, I'm not surprised you didn't get anywhere with that person.
Yeah, I've heard that before about them.
Yeah. And it's so easily done, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'd be lying if I said I haven't done that.
I've thought that.
I haven't thought it. I've said it.
I don't think I've said it, but I've thought it.
I've said it.
It's that person. Right, okay, I get it now.
Yeah, I've said it.
I'm better than that.
But it's not good.
No, it's not good.
It's
Even
not
if you just
good.
think it. If you don't say it out loud, it's still not good.
No, it's not good. Okay, so so in that scenario then we've got your staffy zigzagging 8 months. We're not going to ask them what they've tried before. We're not going to ask them who they've worked with as well. But we might go, okay, so how is that dog's behaviour making you feel?
I actually don't look forward to any walks now.
Okay. And what impact is that having on your relationship with the dog?
We've got zero connection outside. Like all he wants to do is pull to get to sniffs and dogs and people, and he just couldn't care less about me.
And how does that make you feel?
Really, really shit.
Who else is this behaviour impacting?
Well, my husband really, because he's the one that has to do more of the walks.
Okay.
And he's like fed up with it as well.
When you say fed up, what do you mean?
So we basically have conversations about who's going to do it because no one wants to do it, and we end up having a row.
Okay, then. So how would you say the dog's behaviour with this loose lead walking is impacting your relationship with your partner?
I would say that we are bickering like most days now, and we used to get on really, really well. And we both wanted this dog, and now we've had conversations that we both don't want the dog.
Okay. So how much longer do you think you can go with the dog's behaviour as it currently is?
At the moment, I feel like not very long. I'm done with it.
Okay. When you say not very long, if you had to put a time frame on it, what would it be?
A month.
A month. Wow. Okay.
If something doesn't change soon. Yeah.
Okay.
We've considered like looking into rehoming him as well.
Wow. So hit pause on that then. So already, can you see how much more information you've got from that call just by having a conversation with someone? Because immediately, if we do the normal, air quote, dog trainer thing of, it's loose lead walking, I can do that in a session or two. Or certainly we've had this as well, haven't we? Like when we're talking about longer term programs for people, but I can do that in one session. So
it's only loose lead walking.
Yep. So I'm going to lose that client because if I'm only offering, call it even 5 sessions, if that's your longer term version, and you can do it in one, they're not going to buy it. They're not going to buy it because it's loose lead walking. You can just do it in one session. But already for me, the feeling I'm getting from this particular person, this potential client is this dog is going to get rehomed. Like her relationship is on the brink. You can just imagine it, can't you?
Yeah.
Like you can really feel that. And do we honestly think that going out and seeing them once is going to be the answer?
No. And what we do need to remember here is that as the dog trainer, you could potentially get that dog walking on a nice loose lead in one session.
Yeah.
Give that dog back to the owner. Do you think that's likely to continue? And also, let's look at all the other stuff that we go into when we talk about like proofing and, reinforcing the behaviour in all different locations and environments. Do you think that is going to happen in one session?
No.
And
do not say this to clients, by the way. I've seen people do this.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's that you can sell the dream and say, yeah, I can do that in one session. But reality says that owner is then going to train a hop, which is probably what's happened before you. And that's why the other person whose technique was probably completely legitimate didn't end up working, because there's no accountability, there's no further support, there's no let's try it in all these different places. Mm-hmm. So for me, a loose lead walking issue can be months long on its own.
Yeah.
With nothing else involved, because you have to work at like that relationship breakdown. You almost become a counsellor. How many of us say it's emotionally draining because it affects not only the dog, it affects the humans, it affects the family members. You're taking that burden on, and you should be, because that's your role as a mentor, a coach, whatever you want to call it. That's what you should be doing. And if we're delivering an awesome service to our owners, then that is exactly the role that we're positioning them ourselves at, or it should be. So therefore, why are we scared to sell it? Or why are we scared to offer something longer than one session?
Yeah. This is it. And if you're not having conversations with people, you are not going to understand this. And I'm remembering the role play I did now. I kind of used my example because this was very real for me at the time. The only difference was I knew what to do about it because I was a trainer. But having the huskies, lead walking, expecting a baby, a pram is now involved in that walk, no time, busy. That was a big problem. That was a huge problem. Now, the thought process behind money and everything and taking it back to how we started this episode, if I know that about a client, or even in the Staffy example, like there are really big pain points there. Like you've got a relationship breakdown, and then you've also got a fear of something that hasn't happened yet, but the overwhelm of a pram and a baby and dogs, plural, like all this stuff that's happening. So when we make assumptions that something could be expensive and maybe it only needs to be a one-off session, well, we're not just talking about one-off sessions in either of those scenarios, even though they've both rang in with lead walking being the issue. And secondly, there's time pressure on both of those. Huge amounts of time pressure. So if your solution is a solution to their pain problem and they feel connected to you and they feel
listened to,
heard, like you've made the effort to actually reach out and understand this, whereas I'm going to even say 95 plus, if not 99% of other people they have inquired with will have sent my option 1 email back to them. Or just ignored them.
Another option that people sometimes give is fill out this really long consultation form as the inquiry.
Yes.
And it's very extensive in some cases. I came across the dog trainer's website recently and I clicked in just to be a bit nosy. And wow, it was like 2 or 3 A4 pages worth of stuff. Now, this is an initial inquiry. This is, again, it's that person on the other end of that inquiry getting reams of information, but has never spoken to that person and can be absolutely misinterpreted on a form. It's hard to convey. They're not going to ask them how it makes them feel. I'm pretty sure. I'm assuming it's not going to ask them how it's affecting their relationship at home. They're going to say, what have you tried before? Like all of those things that we've just talked about that aren't relevant.
Yeah.
But maybe in their head, they're relevant. They feel that they need to ask those things because of that imposter syndrome bit or whatever it is.
Yeah, maybe. Or it's that I need to gather as much information as possible to make sure I'm comfortable taking on.
To make myself to make myself feel safe. And I think it's a lot to do with that.
Yeah. And this is where we have to really switch our thinking to going, we're dealing with people. We're not dealing with dogs.
And also, this is a whole other episode and we have done one on this a bit, but it's that customer journey bit.
Yeah.
If I'm just an initial inquiry, I want to just inquire, maybe with a few people, maybe just get the gist of what's out there. Do I really want to fill out 2 or 3 pages of a jot form or something or a Google Doc? No, I'm happy to do that if
I'm in.
If it's necessary. And I would still question if that is necessary throughout the whole process, by the way. But if we felt it was, and we needed it, once they're in, once they're locked in, once they're booked in, great. Then do that. It's not relevant. And this goes with other information that's just plastered all over websites of what the terms and conditions of signing up to the service
terms
are.
and conditions.
Again, we're spinning off into a slightly different thing here, but it's unnecessary information, again, for that customer. They just need to speak to somebody. They just need to figure out if you're right first.
Yeah. Because ultimately, as soon as you're speaking with someone, then the theory is if you've done a decent enough job of understanding them and a genuine conversation, like you're not trying to sell your services.
You should never be trying to sell your services. You shouldn't need to.
Absolutely not. And I think this is maybe where we get stuck and we get in our own way again because we're going, I need that sale.
Yeah.
And maybe ultimately that's where it all boils down to, that we make all of these crappy decisions because it's coming from a place of fear that we're not making enough money that month And then we're in contradiction with ourselves because we shouldn't be making money because we should be in it for the dogs.
Oh, it's an internal battle. The
It
whole
is.
thing, isn't it?
You're in this constant cycle where you are stuck quite literally on that hamster wheel because you're not allowing yourself to move forward in any direction.
Yeah.
You're not looking after yourself. You're not looking after that lizard part of your brain that goes, I need safety. I need security. I need that stability. And I'm sorry, but money does give you that.
It gives you all of that. Yeah.
So whether you like it or not, sorry, not sorry, but you need to earn money to live. You need to earn money to do the things that you want to do. If you want to keep going to all these nice conferences and CPD courses, you've got to pay for it. So money is an integral part of running a business, I'm afraid. And we need to figure out how we can feel more comfortable with asking for that sale, as long as it's in genuine service of that person.
And also, let's go back to that initial conversation. Like if someone's emailed in and they've put their phone number underneath, which is a lot of people do that, and you call them or you arrange at least a time where it's mutually like agreeable, that's over exceeding, again, what most people are going to do. So straight away, the value of you is going to go up anyway. Yeah. So you're not only calling them, speaking to them like a human, you are then asking the right questions. You're framing everything in the right way. And then when it comes to that bit where this is how much it might be, now they might already know how much it is, they might not. But when it gets to that bit, it's not awkward because they're then totally understanding what they're going to get from working with you and how it's going to feel. And that you are going to ask them the right questions to be able to delve into that problem and start to like fix that problem.
Yeah.
So,
because I think we have to be mindful of, it's not, you are never going to convince somebody to buy from you. As much as you think you are, even if you do all the things that we're saying. So like you get your messaging on point and you know your strategy and you've got an amazing service and it's long term. Do you know what I mean? Like you've got all that stuff right. Someone can still say, no, it's not for them.
Yeah.
And it's okay. It's okay. But we have to really, I think everything just keeps coming back to this mindset on how you feel about money. Because as soon as your brain thinks something is expensive or a figure is expensive, that will come across.
Yeah.
It will absolutely come across because your tone of voice will change.
Yeah.
You won't ask the right questions. You'll duck and dodge. You won't talk about money on the phone call. You'll take it offline and put it on a text message maybe or...
Yeah, and actually, if you do duck and dodge the conversation and you are cautious, that gets people suspicious and they're like, why aren't they telling me? Why aren't they forthcoming with the information? What... I've then got something to worry about because then when you do say the figure, I probably am going to think it's too expensive because if you don't believe in it, how am I supposed to believe it as well?
Yeah. And I'm trying to think of some other examples. It's like an exercise we get a lot of people to do, don't we, is just pick a figure and pick a figure that you deem expensive and pick a figure that you deem cheap. No context, which makes it harder.
It makes it really hard.
But no context, but just like a really high figure and a really low figure that could be deemed as either cheap or expensive. Now, I promise you, even if you ask 3 people, if that's all you can ask a family member, a friend, anyone nearby, you will get a different answer.
Yeah.
And hopefully what that starts to tell your brain is that, everybody has got a different expensive figure and everybody has got a different cheap figure. So therefore, how can your product or service be expensive? Because what's expensive to one person may not be expensive to somebody else.
Yeah.
And I think there is a lot of judgment and assumption that goes into price points as well, that for your expensive figure to be paid, you must live in an affluent area.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I can hand on heart say from experience, the majority of clients I have had over the years have not been in affluent areas.
I would say that it's like a 90% non-affluent area to 10% affluent for me in that as well.
Yeah. It's the small percentage from the affluent side where you would arguably go, you've got cash. Look at the house that you live in. Look at the cars that you drive. You can afford it.
But even going to go as far to say the ones who have got the cash don't value it as much as those that do, because they've had to really work to find that money and to know that they need to do it. And so they've had to sacrifice stuff. So they're like, I'm in. Like, if I'm doing this, I'm going to be in for the whole thing and have to make this work. So you almost get that kind of, attitude. Not all the time, but you do get that sometimes. So
yeah. But the more you, as the business owner, let these thoughts creep into your services and how you're going to operate and how you're going to deliver this amazing customer service as well, it will impact your business. I mean, I remember the conversations we were having, not in the dog business, because we never had that issue in the dog business. Because I think we'd both made so many fuck ups separately that we got that bit right. But when CBA first existed, we were like, oh my God.
Oh yeah.
And the words I myself was saying is that dog trainers can't afford this service. Dog trainers aren't going to want to pay for that. They'll spend it on CPD, but they're not going to want to pay for business coaching. It needs to be really low. It needs to be really low. And I'd got in my head so much. I remember telling this story to our mastermind group the other week, and they were really surprised, weren't they? Kind of like, you were worried about that because of how open I talk about money and how we talk about the confidence around it. I was like, yeah, because it was a new area that I was having to sell to, I suppose. But it's that reminder again that we're not selling.
No. And it's, we all do it in our, we know now from being in the mastermind group that there's loads of different industries in there, and they're all saying, my industry is different. They won't pay. And it's every industry. It's all the same.
Yep.
So it makes no difference. I know we're slightly different, that we're dealing with dogs and people, but it's the same. It's that same perception that no one will pay, no one will do it. And it's absolutely possible if you have the right approach and you are genuinely trying to help from a place of service and you aren't trying to dupe anybody. And I know, I hope 100% of people that are listening to this are not trying to dupe anybody into spending money they don't want to, and they're doing it from a place of passion. So therefore, if we get everything right about how we are positioning those services to the general public, then it should never come across like that. And something we recently got some really nice feedback, actually, I think recently, a few times, is how people who've come on board with us at CBA have never felt like they've been sold to, that we are asking them the right questions. We are trying to understand their struggles and their pains, and they come round on their own. We don't have to say, we know they really need this thing, but we're not there to say, we think that you really need this thing. They have to come to that conclusion on their own. And it's been really nice having that validation recently and knowing that people feel like that about us and they don't feel like they're pressured into anything, because it isn't our job to do that.
No, it should never be your job. Even if you are in a professional sales role, it is not your job to get somebody to buy. It's your job to present a solution. If you feel that the product or service you have is going to solve that person's problem, then yes, you have to earn the right to be able to ask for that money as well. And for us, that earning the right is by understanding that client. So I think for us, that's why we don't have that issue of, we're not worried about asking for that sale, because we've earned the right to do so.
Yeah.
By doing the nurturing, by truly understanding them, by really getting into the nitty-gritty of, how is my service actually going to help you? Because it's never the top line thing, is it? Like those two examples of those little role play things of the husky and the staffy with the relationship breakdown and the impending baby. We're not solving loose lead walking.
No.
That's not what the person's buying. The person is not buying you to come out and teach that dog to walk nicely on a lead. That's the byproduct. They are getting you, they are hoping, they are investing in your service so that their relationship doesn't break down.
So their life improves.
Yep.
And that is what we do with our coaching clients on CBA as well. And the other thing I want to say is that it should be our job to guide them into the correct service as well. So although there should be choice around these things, and if you offer loads of different services, then that might be too much choice. But if there are a couple of different choices, we would encourage you to guide somebody to the right choice. And again, if it's integrity involved and values and all of that stuff, then it shouldn't feel like if you're guiding them into the more expensive one, let's say, because that's what people are going to call it, that should be wrong. Like, why should it be wrong? If you really feel that that more expensive or that higher ticket service is what that person really needs to get the result, that's what we should be doing out of integrity. And I've turned people down where they've wanted a lower investment service, and I've gone, it's not the right thing, I'm afraid. And I would rather take the hit and not have that person come on board at all. And again, that shows that that isn't me just money grabbing, because I'd rather lose out completely than sort of mis-selling you something because I don't feel like it's the right thing for you. Now, potentially you could bring somebody in on a lower ticket thing and then they could stay and you could upsell them, but only if that journey is right for them.
Yeah.
And only if it's going to bring that result. If it isn't, then it shouldn't be.
And you're not going to know that until you've spoken to them.
Not.
Like if that's all done over email or text or WhatsApp or social media DMs now.
And also, how long-winded is it to keep going back and forth on messages,
Yeah.
like emails, you know? You have to wait for someone to be available and then they remember and life gets in the way and all that kind of stuff. So a phone call just does it, doesn't it? It just gets the job done in one as well.
Yeah. Because like, if you think about it, and again, off tangent a little bit, but also connected, think about that customer's journey in terms of why have they reached out to you at that moment in time?
Yeah.
So one of those are the questions actually that I would have asked in that. Well, actually, we should do a whole podcast episode on like an actual sales call. Yeah. Because there's loads in that we didn't even go into. But one of the questions that I probably would have asked in that is looking into, I've totally forgotten what that question is now. We will have to come back and do an actual sales call.
I knew where you were going with it and then my brain's...
Yeah, no, it's gone. It's gone. It's fine. We'll bypass it. But no, ultimately it is finding out what is it that's going to set you apart.
Oh, I know. The reason why somebody called you at that
That's
time,
it. Thank you. Yes. So it's like, why, so what has happened now that's made you...
What's the trigger for
that? What's happened? Not a why question. What has happened that's made you want to reach out now? Because if that's been going on for 8 months, what's changed?
What's changed? Yeah.
So something's changed. So you've got to the end, and again, like these are the internal thoughts, not what we're saying out loud. But the like something's happened. So something's got you to the end of your rope. Something's made you break. And if we can tap into that, that's you being in service. That's not being sleazy sales. That's you going, right, I can understand why you're feeling like that. And I really want to help. Here's my solution.
Yep. And I'm not put a gun to your head.
No.
You can go elsewhere if you like.
That's it. But it's this fear of if we lean in and go, oh God, like, that
I hate this bit.
Yeah. It's like, okay.
Sometimes people say that.
Yes.
I hate this bit. Oh, okay. That's going to fill me with confidence if I'm the client.
Yeah. Yeah. But I do understand the thought process because I have a skill set that can help you. If I can save your marriage, if I can make you feel more comfortable with that baby coming along, and that poor dog gets to have a better life, then we'll just do one session. Yeah. I can help. But you have to remember, like, you're not helping.
Yes.
Because that's not providing the right solution.
And actually this kind of just, again, a little side thing here about the pressure of reducing if it's a program that someone's inquiring about and you're like, if they've said, can I just do one or can I just do a taster session first to see if you're the right person? And then we'll go from there. And how easy would it be for a lot of people to cave in at that point?
Yeah.
But again, we have to think about, why do we have the program? Why do we have the package in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
Like, where does that desire to build a package come from? And if you're then happy to break that apart and just do a one-off session, where does that fit with all of this like internal beliefs around helping the owner and helping the dog? So I think we've always got to bring it back to that, haven't we? And as much as we know why, because it's that safety thing of needing money and not getting a sale and everything, but we just have to be so sure around everything we're creating. And that's where you might look at those services and go, do you know what? I need to rethink this whole thing now.
Yeah.
Because maybe I'm not comfortable with how I'm doing things.
And arguably, to me, if someone's asking for a taster session, to me, like if I ever heard that, I would take that and go, right, Vic, someone's asking for a taster session. We're not doing a very good job at getting our message out they don't know what they're coming into. So we need to work harder at our messaging and our marketing, because that should never happen.
Yeah.
If you're doing that bit right, like you should know what you're buying into on a company.
Yeah. And you should take that as constructive feedback and go, okay, there's a little gap here that I need to fill. And that gap shouldn't be filled with like just try a bit of this, try a bit of that. Should be with a strategic solution to that gap. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think the key points of this episode, I want to keep this one a little bit short and sweet. So right to the point.
Packs a punch.
It is just pack a punch. Money. Check in with yourself. Where are those fears coming from? And I would absolutely encourage you to do that exercise of like ask a few people of what's expensive and what's cheap with no context.
And I'd also ask you to think, does Amazon feel bad whenever you check out a basket?
Yes.
Does it ever go, I'm really sorry, but it's going to cost you 25 quid? It goes, no. Boom. You've paid.
It says thank you.
It does say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your purchase.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Well, I may not appreciate it, but I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
But no, it's check in with yourself. Check in where that's coming from. And actually write these down. I think sometimes when you see your thoughts written down in front of you, you look at them in a different way, don't you? They suddenly go like, oh, why is that a problem?
Yeah,
because it's in black and white now. It's not in my head where it's in this circle of overthink. It's now, is that as drastic as I think it is? And it may be, but it may not be as well.
Yeah, it might be more catastrophized in your head than it is on paper.
Easily done. Yeah. And share them with us in our Facebook group, actually.
Oh, yeah.
There's loads going on in there. So the more you share, I feel like there's a phrase around this, like a problem shared is a problem. Is it?
Yeah,
I'm going to go with it. Something like that.
It's not a trendy, like young person's phrase.
Young person. Like Earl.
Earl. We did a podcast interview just before this one. We were talking about Earl in real life.
In real
life.
If
you don't know.
No.
We didn't know.
No. We digress as normal.
We do. Yes.
So
talking of the Facebook group though, we would love you to join that Facebook group if you aren't in there. So if you join, I think it's in the show notes anyway, but it's the CBA community. So if you have a little search for that on Facebook, then you can come in and you can get our free training that's in there every other week and be around magic. The community is being built up really nicely now. And I would say we pride ourselves on that is a really nice safe space and people are open and vulnerable in there without fear of judgment, which is exactly what we're trying to create in that group.
Yeah, yeah. Lots of money mindset stuff comes up in there a lot.
Yes, it does.
So check in with yourself. Where's it come in? Write some stuff down. Think about your sales process because this is all connected. Like if you're scared to ask for money, then let's check in on the sales process as well. Like what are you doing? What's your current process in terms of getting somebody to give you money so you can go and help their dog? What does that look like? And that's always a good starting point.
Yeah.
So I have nothing else to say on the matter.
No, me.
Well, I do, but it'll be a very long podcast. So
it's done for today.
Hope you enjoyed.